Hey YouTube, what's up? This is the Reluctant Nabi back again. News and views on the news. All right, and I want y'all to please like, if you can, like, subscribe, and share, subscribe, and if you can, donate. I'll try to leave a link in the description box. Please look in all the description boxes when you look at my videos for the donation link if you care to donate, and if you want to contact with me by email, right? So we're going to start with a documentary by Dennis Mueller, Deb Ellis, right? All right, just so you get an understanding. Goal in the United States to prevent the coalition of militant black nationalist groups. Prevent the rise of a messiah who could unify and electrify the militant black nationalist movement. Prevent the militant black nationalist groups and leaders from gaining respectability and discrediting to the community. A final goal should be to prevent the long range growth of militant black nationalist organizations, especially among the youth. Excerpt from the FBI COINTELPRO document. All right. Now, part of all this stuff that they have done, they are doing through the child support system by allowing us to be exploited by paternity fraud. When they say militant black nationalist group, they mean a national consciousness of black men where we see the traps that are laid out upon us, and they do not want us or our children to be educated so that they can keep exploiting us, because in the United States we still look like slaves to them, to the government. All right. Now, the things that are being done to us are also being done to all men. This type of exploitation, where you could clearly see that there is no just law in the United States for any man, and that the man's livelihood and ability to create a family lies solely with the type of female in his community. Meaning that if you have an exploitive female, that female is going to run that community into the ground. If you have a supportive female in that community, say like the Chinese, that group is going to prosper to the point where the Chinese people in Houston have Chinese characters as street signs in their community. That's how much they own their community. And black people own a lot. Wait a minute. No. Yeah. The Arabs own the stores. The Koreans own the nail shops and the hair. Oh, black people don't own jack in their own community. The only community where there is not a plethora of businesses that belong to the people of said community. All right. And so, and instead, because of our women, the black man is exploited to a horrible degree, to the point where when black women want men to take responsibility of their children, they know in their heart that the man that they're asking to take responsibility in many cases are not their children. Father. They are not their children's father. They know this. They went with the man that had the bigger check. This is why I made this child support paternity fraud on notice. Meal tickets for black American women voided by tired black men. We are no longer going to be your meal ticket. If a black woman want to give us all we need, then we're going to do our best for her. But she got to come with it first. Because the trust thing, not there anymore. It has been said by a Muslim guy The greatest weapon, or the greatest soldier that the government have for destroying the black man has been the black woman. It's sad to say it, but it's sadder for it to be true. Take a listen. Hey y'all, let's get those thumbs up, like, share, subscribe. My PayPal me and Cash App will be in the description box. But don't forget, you take care of yourself and family first. Y'all know what time it is, all right? So let's keep it rolling.
County man claims a major triumph in his 3-year quest to protect men from paying child support for children they didn't father. Last year, he helped change Georgia law, and today his work was put to the test with his own future on the line. Fox 5's Lisa Crane has the story.
Okay, the first case is Tony Odom versus Carnell Smith.
But it was a case that didn't make it into open court. After years of fighting, a judge today ruled Carnell Smith was not responsible to pay child support to a child he did not father. Almost 3 years ago, a DNA test proved that the then 11-year-old girl he had thought was his own was not his child. But in Georgia, that didn't mean the end of his own obligation to financially support that child. Smith turned his case into a crusade and helped shape paternity fraud legislation that passed last year. Today, his case was the first to test the new law, and in chambers, the judge terminated his parental rights and obligations.
I feel this is a major victory for defrauded victims everywhere.
There were a lot of people watching this case, like Reverend Randall Robinson. Through DNA testing, he discovered that some of the children he had always thought were his own weren't.
In a previous marriage, and 2 out of the 3 children are not mine. At that time, I still was ordered by the court to pay child support.
And this is the first real test of this new legislation, but it appears right now that even after a man proves he is not the biological father, he must still come to court to end his child support obligation. Smith says there's still work to be done in Georgia.
We're going to ask that there be a truth in pregnancy disclosure, that we believe that mothers who know there's more than one person that could be the child's father should be required to make that declaration before the court in the very first hearing.
In DeKalb County, Lisa Crane, Fox 5 News.
Carnell Smith is also working on similar legislation in more than 20 other states and in several other countries. He says he would still like to have contact with the now 14-year-old girl he thought was his daughter, but he says that's up to her mother.
That's up to her mother. What did that pastor say? 2 out of the 3 children were not his. And they know it by DNA. But when you're lying on the black man, you're allowed to do it. When you lie on the government, you're going to jail. Understand this. When you lie on men, just men, period, in the United States. Men, white men, Hispanic men, black men. If you're a man, these women hate you, but the government hates you more. They want you to go fight and die for them in wars. But when you come back, this is what you got to look forward to. Understand this. Is our government so greedy that they have become just a pot of injusticeness? If I could make that word up. Injustice permeate all throughout our governments. This whole country. Since its inception with the slavery thing. All right. But to the black man, it has been worse. Why? Because what is their goal? Their goal is to prevent the coalition of militant black nationalist groups, prevent the rise of a messiah who could electrify and unify the militant black nationalist movement, prevent the militant black nationalist groups and leaders from gaining respectability by discrediting them to the community. And the final goal should be to prevent the long-range growth of militant black nationalist organizations, especially among the youth. And their primary weapon in preventing growth to black youth and black men has been the black woman. But wait a minute. Can't really blame all of that on the government. Because we could have stuff if our woman would have united with us as we were trying to be good men. But the woman turned on us and became our worst enemy. Understand this. This is how terrible this has been. I want you to remember what happened to this mother when she defrauded the government. They put her in prison, federal prison, for 21 years. But the same government that will put a woman in federal prison for defrauding them on taxes will allow these women to defraud men day in and day out. Right? But it gets worse than this. Look at what the men have to go through.
It's not uncommon to hear about criminals being exonerated for their crimes after DNA testing proved their innocence. But as our national correspondent John Frankel recently found, those same DNA tests don't carry much weight in a court of law when it comes to paternity disputes.
My name is Carnell Smith. I don't know if you saw my note. I'm with the Citizens Against Paternity Fraud.
Carnell Smith is an engineer in Decatur, Georgia. He's lobbying his state's legislature to help men like him, men who have discovered they are not the biological fathers of a child and want to stop paying child support.
For so many victims that are in worse situations than me, they need this bill.
You use the word victim. Why do you consider yourself a victim?
I consider myself a victim because of circumstances where information that would have caused me to at least doubt the accusation of paternity, that information was withheld from me. I had no idea that there was someone else involved.
Smith believed he fathered a daughter with a former girlfriend in 1988. He agreed to pay child support and paternity papers. Smith claims he developed a relationship with the little girl, one he continued even after he married Lisa, shown here, and had his own daughter. But when the ex-girlfriend asked for an increase in support, a friend suggested Smith get a DNA paternity test. The results of two separate tests were the same. Negative.
I believe someone had actually just slugged me in the stomach, man. I thought, how could this possibly happen?
In fact, it happens quite often.
About 30% of the individuals that are presented to us as alleged fathers are excluded as the biological father of the child.
This lab in Baltimore charges around $500 for a DNA test. 250,000 such tests are performed each year in the U.S. But men involved in disputes such as the Smith case complain the results often fail to sway family court judges.
Really knowing who the biological father might not be enough even for law.
Carol Sanger, a family law expert, says the courts have traditionally put the child's welfare first.
They're very reluctant to leave a child without support. And so a lot of this comes down to who's going to support the children. For the law, that's often as big an issue as, that's often a comparably sized issue to who's the actual father.
States that consider DNA evidence when identifying a father usually do so within 2 to 5 years of a child's life.
After that, the rule for most civil judgments is, that's it. We need some finality.
That's what Dennis Caron found in Ohio. He was jailed when he refused to pay support for a 10-year-old boy which a DNA test proved was not his. In Texas, Morgan Wise was already divorced when he found out 3 of his 4 kids were not biologically his. But still, a judge ordered him to continue paying child support and even stripped him of visitation rights because Wise shared the DNA information with the kids.
I want to see every man and family who find themselves in a similar situation, that they get an opportunity to a fair day in court.
A handful of states are taking steps towards allowing men to stop paying child support, even years after birth, if DNA disproves a biological relationship. This worries child advocates.
If you have taken responsibility for a child for a number of years, if the child has looked to you as a parent for a number of years, does coming in with a genetic test mean you can just walk away from those responsibilities?
Smith insists
That's exactly
his
what
first
it means.
responsibility is to his own family. Smith has asked a judge to excuse him from child support, and he's taking the unusual step of suing the ex-girlfriend for more than $40,000 in support he says he's paid over the years.
Restitution has a great deal to do with the impact financially to my family, who has had to do without because of money going out of the household.
Some suggest mandatory paternity testing when children are born. Others say that's unrealistic.
If the reluctance to sign prenuptials or even to ask for someone to sign one is as great as it is, I think that the DNA idea, the mandatory DNA or the social DNA, darling, if you love me, you'll give me your DNA, isn't going to go very far.
Say hello to Elmo.
But Carnell Smith believes DNA offers proof that must not be ignored.
At least somebody should get a chance for their freedom here. The innocent man should always be allowed to be set free based on evidence.
Smith's former girlfriend refused to talk to us. Meanwhile, a law Smith has been lobbying for passed the Georgia House unanimously. It's now pending in a Georgia Senate committee. For The Early Show, I'm John Frankel.
A judge in Georgia heard testimony on Carnell Smith's case on Monday. We're told a decision is expected soon. Can you imagine? Wait.
I haven't heard that one before.
Did we come in the wrong place? Imagine being the poor guy who 3 of his 4 are not his. By the way, he's got to pay child support. He can't even visit them.
That's a chat you have with your wife, isn't it?
There's something really strange here. And I know the guy in prison, right? It's not his, but he's going to jail for it. Man.
There you go. Well, shall we change focus?
Sure, why not? Anything's better than that one.
There you go. I don't know if you haven't seen the weather yet.
All right, you understand this? Y'all men understand. In this country, these women are exploiting. These women are exploiting to the nth degree these crooked laws in this country. Why? To get money. Money is so important. Paper is so important that they will kill the community to get it. And for what? To put stuff on their head that was cut off, hair on their head that was cut off in a ceremony to worship the god of destruction, Shiva. And you're going to take that demon mop and put it on your head. It's something that was intentionally given up in worship to the god of destruction. And why is the state requiring it? Food stamps. Money. It must be the money. So they will rob the man of everything he has for money. All right, y'all listen to this next video, because this is a crying shame.
Governor Gray Davis vetoed the California Paternity Justice Act, which would have helped thousands of California men
who were wrongly assigned paternity in default judgments and who have been compelled by the state to pay years of child support for children whom DNA tests have shown are not theirs.
According to then Governor Gray Davis, he vetoed the bill, saying, "This bill would directly impact child support collections and would jeopardize California's ability to meet federally required performance measures, putting California at risk of losing up to $40 million in federal funds." This was at a time when in Los Angeles County, 79% of paternity judgments were decreed by default. Most of these men had no idea they were fathers until their wages were garnished. So essentially, the governor of the most populous state in the Union vetoed an effort to reduce paternity fraud. Because a reduction in paternity fraud might cost the government money. Governor Davis was not alone in his conclusion that refusing to address paternity fraud is good government and good business. Many other states have opted to look the other way when it comes to adopting legislation against paternity fraud. But why? Due to federal incentives. Federal law does not directly require paternity establishment. Instead, the federal government uses the power of the purse to impose conditions upon state eligibility for receipt of federal funds. Since the 1980s, Congress has operated on the belief that federal welfare expenditures can be offset by recoupment of child support payments from non-custodial parents. Accordingly, federal law requires that a recipient of temporary assistance to needy families, TANF, must assign to the government the right to receive child support payments. The federal government also provides penalties and incentives to the states related to their performance in paternity establishment. Federal law establishes a target of paternity establishment in 90% of cases. Failure to meet the target subjects the state to an escalating series of program improvement requirements and penalties. In addition, Congress has provided that states with the highest paternity establishment rates will be eligible for bonus or incentive payments from the federal government. With billions of dollars of federal TANF funds and incentive payments at stake each year, the states have tremendous incentives and motivation to pursue high rates of paternity establishment. While nothing in federal law requires or authorizes establishing paternity against the wrong man, there is also nothing in federal law that prohibits or penalizes tagging the wrong man. Eligibility for receipt of federal funds under TANF and under the federal incentive formula depends only upon tagging the largest possible number of men, and there is no review or requirement that it be the right man. States are highly incentivized to establish paternities, and one man will serve as well as any other. The true impact of paternity fraud goes far beyond the dollars collected from men who are not the fathers. For children facing life-threatening illnesses, such as cancers requiring bone marrow transplants or other medical emergencies, knowing one's biological heritage can be a matter of life and death. Some argue that demanding accuracy in determinations of fatherhood would harm children who have established relationships with men they believe to be their fathers. This is not true. In most cases of paternity fraud, the children have never even met the supposed father. Furthermore, court proceedings for assigning fatherhood do not seek to establish a relationship between a parent and a child. Paternity hearings seek to establish only a financial obligation on the part of the alleged father to the child. Without a doubt, we are a nation in need of fathers. However, fatherhood is a consensual act made by men who choose to have intimate relations or elect to adopt children. It is not a decision that should be made by courts that arbitrarily place financial responsibility for children on unrelated and unwilling men. The children are the real victims in paternity fraud. They deserve better than to have their support paid by extortion. We can't legislate morality, but our laws and policies should be based on the truth. Honoring the truth serves the best interests of the children and communities. Visit our website and become a member. Help us to help paternity fraud victims, because paternity is important to you and to children.
So take a look at that, y'all. 79%. All right. Now, I want y'all to hear this. It gets sadder yet.
I didn't even know I allegedly had a child until the child was 3 years old.
In addition, even though you did submit a DNA test, it was not submitted to this court within 10 days as ordered. Given you are still over $20,000 behind in child support, I am remaining you to the county jail where you will remain until you pay what is due to Mrs. Hood. Deputy, please arrest Mr. Hood.
Throughout this case, John swore he was not the father. Even after the DNA test, he just didn't believe he was the father.
We had a signed affidavit saying she told her friend that I was not the father. And the DNA test didn't meet the percentage of 99.9%, as the law states. But that didn't even matter to the judge.
Oh, keep in mind, he's in the Navy.
Now that John has been placed under arrest, he will be taken to the county jail. On December 1st, 2006, Wanda Hood, John's mother, decides to contact John's attorney. Wanda tells him she has some news she now feels she should have shared with him several months earlier.
You know, I didn't think this was important at the time, but I told the attorney I had John when I was very young. And John was a twin. His twin brother's name was James.
Now that John's mother has revealed he has a twin brother, would this explain why the DNA percentage was so high?
When John's mother told me he had a twin brother, I was shocked. But then it made sense why the percentage was so high.
The attorney told me, based on how DNA works, that this baby could actually be James if Lisa had sex with him.
With Wanda's help, Hurt was able to determine John's brother James Hood lived in a nearby county. Hurt was able to get the judge in that county to issue an order for a paternity test on James. The test results showed that James was actually the biological father.
You mean to tell me I have a twin brother who fathered a child with Lisa? That's why my paternity test was 99.5% match, because my DNA almost matches my twin brother's.
When John's mother called me and said John had a twin brother, it was my job to figure out if there was ever any cases similar to this one which would help convince a judge to stay the child support order.
I thought I would simply be released from jail based upon that alone.
The judge denied the motion to stay, and John remained in jail for contempt. In order to get John out of jail, I filed an appeal to the Georgia Court of Appeals. Despite subsequent legal appeals and a DNA test which confirmed that the child's not his, the court refused to set aside the judgment.
So you're going to put a man in jail who was lied to by the mother, then not penalize the mother, and as a matter of fact, reward her for lying.
When a mom can get more money from an ex-husband than a boyfriend, she typically chooses the one who has the most money. We call it father shopping.
Paternity fraud occurs when a mother lies about who the biological father of a child really is.
My client did not commit fraud. She just simply forgot and didn't remember.
She is the only person who knows who she had sex with.
All my family and friends exhausted the financial resources they had to get me out of jail the first time.
Lisa knew the system and played John, James, the lawyer, the judge, basically the entire system.
Given John was held in contempt, the judge can keep him in jail indefinitely.
So, I will remain in jail until I'm able to pay the child support amount in full. I may be in jail forever.
All right. See how screwed over we are as black men in this country by our own mothers and black women. Father shopping. Father shopping. It's the lottery to them. That dude is in jail. Right? So here we go. These are the 3 links to the videos that you've seen. Go to those channels and watch. All right. Just go to those channels and watch. To see this whole episode, it's the top one. All right. So type that one in, the top one. It'll be in the description box. But this is what us black men face. Sad state of affairs for us. When the woman, when the person that is betraying us before a corrupt system the most for monetary gain is the black woman. Can't put nothing out but the truth. It is what it is. Oh, and that man, his uniform, you see them bars? He's a lieutenant in the Navy. A lieutenant in the Navy is the same as a captain in the Army. So they robbed this man of his career. That judge robbed that man of his career. And that judge goes to bed at night and thinks and sleeps well, knowing that he robbed a man that's supposed to be fighting for, quote unquote, this unjust country. It's a sad state of affairs. I'm like this. I would like to find a sister. Hope I found one. But I'm like this. It has to be on my terms. Because sisters ain't coming to the table with much but deception, greed, lying, and wanting to put you away. They want you to give your all while they hold back. They want you to give 100 while they get 10. It's time for us to all be tired of it. But y'all, if there was never a wake-up call, this is it. For you sisters that's holding it down to us black men, we appreciate you. Oh, and for that matter, Carol, you shouldn't be having any more problems with that other dude that said, oh, you tried to block me, because I blocked his behind. I could thank them women for that. With that said, I'm out. These so-called black Hwangs, the Mother Earths, the first teachers, they're going to hit that wall is coming and the judgment of Yah is coming. I don't want to be anywhere around them as it hits. All right. When the men escape, we're not going to care because it's already no depolicing zone. And for the women that kept telling the good dudes, you need to get you somebody else. Oh, you're going to eat those words. You're going to eat those words. And keep this in mind. They created the men to be perpetual slaves. No, a lot of them are mentally breaking free, spiritually breaking free, which means completely breaking free. And they're going to be left alone. With that said, I'm out.